The first thing I felt was light, blinding, burning light drilling into my skull like a jackhammer. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I wasn't even sure if my mouth was still attached to my face. My throat felt like sandpaper soaked in bleach. My arms wouldn't lift. My legs weren't there. I blinked, slow, painful. The ceiling above me was too white. I heard something beep, then footsteps, voices. I didn't recognize the room, but I knew what this was. A hospital, maybe rehab. The last thing I remembered was walking into the warehouse. Then metal, cracking wood, screaming, darkness. Then I heard her, Carly. She was right outside the room, just on the other side of the half-closed door. I knew that voice like my own heartbeat. "Yeah, I already talked to the DMV," she said. "I just need the title switched to my name. If he, doesn't make it." Silence. Then she giggled. Actually giggled. "Don't roll your eyes," she said to whoever she was talking to. "You said it yourself, he's not coming back from this. I'm not gonna waste months waiting to drive the car I paid insurance on." I tried to turn my head. It barely twitched. My neck felt like it had been filled with concrete. Then her voice dropped lower. She stepped in a little closer. "When can I see you again without looking over my shoulder?" A man's voice answered, but it was muffled. I couldn't hear what he said. I didn't need to. My chest locked up tighter than my lungs. Carly. My girlfriend. My ride or die. The woman who held my hand through every rough patch, or so I thought. She was already with someone else. Already making plans for a life that didn't include me. Hell, she sounded annoyed I hadn't died faster. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I felt like I was floating outside my body, hearing my own life unravel like some cheap soap opera. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the door off its hinges. But I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. And she kept talking. "He has savings, right? Like a joint account or something. I'm not trying to wait forever. I need to be able to get my own place. With you." My ears burned. My heart didn't break. It imploded. I laid there, limp, trapped in my own body, listening to the woman I loved plan a future where I was just an obstacle to clear. The door creaked. She stepped into the room, calm as hell. I shut my eyes and slowed my breath. I wasn't dead, but she was about to wish I was. She came closer. I kept my eyes shut and my breathing low, just enough to stay under the radar. The room smelled like hand sanitizer and cheap perfume. Hers. Carly's. She stood over me for a second, not saying anything. Then I heard her set something down. "I brought donuts," she said. Her voice cracked like she was on the verge of tears, but there wasn't a drop of emotion behind it. Footsteps behind her. 2 nurses entered, checking the monitors, doing the usual routine. One of them jotted something on a chart. The other gently peeled my eyelid open with gloved fingers and shined a light. "He's responsive," one of them said. Carly sniffled. "He is." The nurse nodded but didn't say more. Then the door opened again, and a woman in blue scrubs walked in. Mid-20s maybe, brown ponytail, no makeup, just tired eyes and confidence. Her ID badge said Rachel. "I'm Dr. Carmichael," she said. "Call me Rachel. I'm with Neuro." She leaned over, checked my pupils, asked me to squeeze her fingers. I tried. My hand twitched. She smiled, but it didn't feel like a pity smile. "He's got some fight in him," she said to the nurse. "Let's keep monitoring." Carly stepped back like she was suddenly in the way. She wiped under her eyes, though they were bone dry. I'm just glad he's still here," she said, trying to sound shaken. "We've all been so worried." No one answered. She sat down next to the bed, opened the donut box and just sat there, picking at a sprinkle like it was a therapy session. A few minutes passed. The nurses cleared out. Rachel stayed, chart in hand. Carly reached into her purse and pulled out her phone, angling it away from everyone. She leaned forward, pretending to brush my hair back. Then she whispered into her phone. "They said he's not going to make it. I'm almost free. Almost free." I kept my face still. I felt like I'd swallowed boiling oil. Rachel looked up from her clipboard. I caught it, Just for a second, her eyes snapped to Carly's mouth. She'd heard it too. Yeah, yeah, Carly whispered. I'll be out soon. Just not here, okay? I don't want anyone seeing me with you again. Not yet. Then she stood up and gave a half-hearted pat to my arm like I was a dog on its last legs. I'll come back tomorrow, she told Rachel. Maybe with his favorite snacks. If he makes it through the night. Rachel didn't smile. She just nodded once and watched Carly leave. As soon as the door clicked shut, I opened my eyes fully and coughed. It sounded like gravel. Rachel snapped into action, grabbing water, adjusting the bed. I managed to get 2 words out. Don't tell. She leaned in. Don't tell who? I swallowed. Her. Carly. Don't tell her I'm awake. Rachel paused, just stared at me for a second. Then she leaned closer and whispered, women like that don't deserve updates. They deserve restraining orders. I couldn't smile, but my chest stopped aching for a second. She poured me another cup of water. You play dead as long as you need to. I've got you. She walked out into the hallway, probably to update some chart or bark at a nurse. And I laid there, burning up with the kind of anger that makes your soul sit up straight. The next morning, I choked down half a cup of Jell-O and a spoonful of mashed potatoes. My arms still shook if I tried lifting more than a plastic cup, but at least I could sit up without blacking out. Rachel checked in like clockwork. Vitals, reflexes, the usual questions. But then she'd sit by the window for 10 minutes just talking about random stuff. Her brother's terrible taste in music, her neighbor's loud dog, some old lady who tried to tip her with a Blockbuster gift card. It was the only time I didn't feel like a science project. Carly hadn't come back. Not even a text or a nurse call. She'd check in. I asked Rachel once, keeping my voice low. She just shook her head. Nope, not since Donut Day. I didn't ask again. I knew why. She was too busy writing me off, probably swiping through Zillow listings with that guy while waiting on my heart rate to flatline. I had too much time to think. That was the problem. I laid there remembering everything I did for Carly. I bought her a used Lexus when her old Camry died. Paid off 2 of her credit cards after she cried about debt collectors. Co-signed a lease on that busted little nail salon in Fairview. Even though the location sucked and I told her so. She always had an excuse. I'll pay you back next month. It's an investment in our future. You believe in me, right? I believed so hard I ignored the red flags flapping in my face. And now she was gone, writing my obituary and checking her credit score. I couldn't let her find out I was alive. Not yet. If she walked through that door and saw me sitting up, she'd put on the tears again, talk about second chances, bring flowers and guilt. I'd seen her work people before. She could lie straight through a confession booth and make the priest feel sorry for her. One night Rachel walked in, dropped a few ice chips in my water, and sat down with a look. She called the front desk again, she said. Asked for a copy of your medical release form. I looked at her, heart thudding. Why? Said she needs it to prepare end-of-life paperwork. Rachel raised her eyebrows. That's not normal girlfriend behavior. Even the receptionist was like, damn. I gripped the rail on the bed. I need out. Before she finds out I'm breathing again. Rachel leaned back in the chair. Technically, you're stable enough to be moved. But you're weak. And you still need PT, meds, wound care. I don't care. She's gonna fake cry her way into my bank accounts if I give her time. Can you help me sign myself out? She didn't answer right away. She looked at me like a mechanic trying to figure out if a busted car could still drive down a mountain. I'll talk to the head nurse, she finally said. But you'll need someone to wheel you out, and I'm guessing you're not calling Carly. I'll call a cab. She shook her head and smiled. You're stubborn. I'll give you that. And she's a snake, I said. I'm not giving her another shot at sinking her fangs in me. Rachel stood up and walked to the door. All right, I'll stall one more day. After that, you're on your own. That's all I need. She left the room, and I grabbed my phone with both hands, fingers trembling like a drunk holding dice. Time to disappear before Carly noticed I was still breathing. I climbed out of the cab slow, stiff, holding onto the door like an old man. The driver didn't even offer help, just took the 20 and drove off. I stood there on the sidewalk, hospital wristbands still digging into my skin, looking up at the house I paid for. My house. It looked the same, but something was off. The blinds were drawn. A different car sat in the driveway, dark gray Charger. Definitely not Carly's. I limped to the front door and pulled out my key. It barely fit. Took 3 tries to get it to turn, and even then it only nudged the latch. She changed the damn locks. I banged hard. First with my fist, then with the side of my hand when the pain kicked in. No answer. I kept banging. Harder. Until finally the door yanked open and some shirtless dude stood there, holding a red Solo cup and blinking like I'd ruined his nap. "Can I help you?" he asked. I stared at him. No words. Just took him in. Sweatpants, no socks, hair still wet from a shower. "This your place?" I asked. He looked behind him like he needed backup. "I mean, I'm staying here. Carly. She home?" Before he could finish, the front door opened wider from the inside. Carly walked in from the kitchen, holding a plastic Target bag. Her eyes landed on me. The bag slipped from her hand and hit the floor, Ken's rolling out across the hardwood. She froze like someone hit pause on her whole body. Her face drained white. I didn't move. I didn't blink. "You've got 5 minutes," I said loud and clear. "My brother's on the way with the sheriff." Her mouth opened. Nothing came out at first. Then the tears started, not real ones, the kind that show up for sympathy points. "Oh my God. You're awake." I didn't answer. "I didn't know what to do," she said, stepping toward me. "They said you weren't gonna wake up." I was panicking. I didn't think. Still, I said nothing. She looked at the guy, then back at me, like she was calculating which lie would hit softest. "We weren't together like that, I swear. I just needed help around the house." Everything was falling apart, and I stared at her, calm, steady. Her voice cracked again. "You don't understand what I've been through. Watching you like that, in that hospital. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't breathe." I tilted my head slightly, still silent. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. "Carly," I said, voice flat. "You have 4 minutes." She turned desperate fast, the way liars always do when the performance stops working. Okay. I messed up. But you can't just throw me out. I gave up everything to be here for you." I laughed once. Just one dry, bitter sound. She dropped to the floor, grabbing stuff off the ground. Bag, keys, her phone charger. Her guy started throwing things in a backpack, still looking confused as hell. I stepped inside and sat down in my recliner like I never left. My side of the cushion still had the same dip. She passed me, hauling 2 tote bags, mascara running down her face. "You're gonna regret this," she said. "After all I did for you." I looked out the window. Her voice raised. "I could take half. Don't think I won't." Still no response. I watched the street. Then she stormed outside, dragging her guy by the arm. I didn't even know his name, didn't care. My brother's truck pulled up behind their car, just like I said. She looked back at me once more, but I was already closing the door. I sank deeper into my recliner, letting the cushions wrap around me like I'd never left. My whole body still ached like hell, but my mind had never been clearer. Carly and her boyfriend were scrambling all over the house, yanking drawers open, tossing clothes into trash bags, knocking over half the stuff I bought. She kept muttering under her breath, cursing, making threats like I wasn't 3 feet away. I pulled out my phone and dialed the locksmith. "Emergency rekeying," I said. "Everything. Front, back, garage side door. I'll pay whatever it takes." The guy said he'd be there in 2 hours. That wasn't fast enough. I called a second number, the security company I used when I ran my old warehouse crew. "Need cameras and motion sensors set up by tonight," I told them. "I'll stay up if I have to. Just get it done." They gave me a price. I didn't blink. From the corner of my eye, I saw Carly holding a picture frame. Us at the beach in Galveston. She looked at it for half a second, then dropped it face down on the coffee table. The glass cracked. I didn't move. An hour later, she was gone. For real this time, or so I thought. I was sitting by the window with a glass of orange juice. My stomach couldn't handle anything stronger, when red and blue lights flashed outside. 2 squad cars rolled up, slow and casual. I wasn't surprised. I opened the door before they could knock. "Let me guess," I said. "She said I threatened her?" One of the officers, an older guy with a gray mustache and a donut stain on his vest, smirked. "She said you were dangerous, unstable, maybe even violent," he said. "Sounded like a soap opera. But then we ran your name." He glanced at my wristband. "You got out of the hospital today?" "Couple hours ago." I handed him my discharge papers, still folded in my pocket. "I can barely walk, let alone throw a punch." The other cop, a younger one, laughed. "She left that part out." "Yeah," I said. "She leaves a lot out." They nodded, said they'd go talk to her real quick. I watched from the porch. She was in the front yard, full tears, hands flying, trying to spin it like she was the victim of some big betrayal. The guy just stood beside her, arms crossed, looking ready to crawl into a bush and disappear. One officer gestured toward the house. Carly pointed, still yelling. They talked for a few more minutes. Then both cops shrugged, turned away, and one motioned toward her car. She screamed something I couldn't hear, but I saw her face twist. Rage. Humiliation. Then she stomped back toward the house. "You think you're safe now?" she shouted, standing at the bottom of the steps. "You think this is over?" I didn't answer. "I'll take everything, you hear me? Everything. I know my rights." I looked at her once, then reached out, grabbed the door, and shut it. Hard. No yelling. No goodbye. Just click. And that was it. The morning after she screamed on my porch, I rolled myself back into the rehab center. Same beige walls. Same antiseptic smell. But this time I wasn't just surviving. I had a plan. Rachel met me in the hallway with a look that said, "Told you she was trash." But she didn't bring it up. Instead, she pointed at a walker. "Welcome back," she said. "Let's get to work." She didn't go easy on me. Made me stand longer than I thought I could. Pushed me through resistance bands, balance bars, slow laps down that ugly tile hallway until I was sweating like a linebacker. Between sessions, she'd drop by with ice chips or cookies wrapped in paper towels. "Mom made oatmeal again," she'd say, setting them on the tray table. "Tastes like guilt." She always bakes when she's mad at my dad. We never talked about Carly. Not once. Instead, we talked about dumb movies, bad cafeteria food, her insane neighbor who trimmed his bushes into animal shapes. I told her about the time I dropped a pallet of paint buckets in the hardware store loading dock and stained the whole alley blue. And the more we talked, the easier it felt to breathe. No games. No guilt. No walking on eggshells. When she helped me stretch out my legs, she didn't flinch at the scars. When I had to stop mid-set to catch my breath, she didn't sigh or judge, just handed me water and kept it moving. 2 weeks later, I got my discharge papers. Full clearance, but I'd need the walker for a while and had a stack of follow-up appointments big enough to choke a filing cabinet. I stood at the exit doors, gripping the walker handles, feeling like I was leaving one life behind and dragging my body into another. Rachel walked me out. "No donuts this time?" I joked. "No deathbed girlfriends either," she shot back. We both laughed. First time I'd laughed without bitterness in months. But peace didn't last. 3 days after I got home, a thick envelope showed up from a law office downtown. Carly's name stamped right across the top. Petition for division of joint assets. She wanted her half of everything. The house, the bank account, the Lexus, yes, the same one I bought her with my bonus. I stood there in the kitchen, the walker next to me, reading page after page of legal garbage while my phone buzzed from blocked numbers. She wasn't gone. Not really. She just changed her tactic. 2 weeks later, I sat in a folding chair outside courtroom B, holding a folder thick with receipts, loan statements, and bank printouts. My leg was still weak, but I left the walker in the car. No way I was walking into that room looking fragile. Her lawyer showed up first. Slick suit, gelled hair, and a stack of papers he probably printed that morning. He nodded at me like this was just business. Then Carly walked in, sunglasses on like she was some washed-up celebrity ducking TMZ. Tight black dress, pouty face, zero shame. She didn't even look at me. The bailiff called us in. We sat on opposite sides of the table while the judge flipped through the files like he already regretted getting out of bed. Petitioner claims she is entitled to half the house in savings, the judge said, skimming her paperwork. Her lawyer stood up like he'd been waiting all day for this. Your Honor, my client shared a domestic partnership with Mr. Carver for over 3 years. She contributed to the household, maintained the property, and supported him emotionally during recovery. I almost laughed. Emotionally supported. I waited for the judge to finish whatever notes he was scribbling. When he looked up, I stood. No speech, no drama. Just opened my folder and slid the papers across. Everything she's asking for is tied to this, I said. Business loans. All taken out before we were even dating. That Lexus she's claiming, purchased in my name, registered to me. Credit card debt, mine. Paid hers off. Twice. All documented. The judge read through the stack like he was flipping coupons. Then he looked at Carly. Ma'am, are you aware that these accounts carry outstanding balances? She blinked. Balances? The judge turned to her lawyer. Your client is demanding half of what is technically negative equity. If I split it, she walks out owing him money. Her lawyer leaned down to whisper something, but she jerked her arm away. This isn't fair, she snapped. I was there for him. He almost died. The judge raised a hand. And I'm sure that was traumatic. But this court deals with contracts and assets, not personal grudges. Either we move forward with the current claim, which would require your client to assume half the debt, or you can settle. The room went dead quiet. She stared at me like she wanted to tear my face off. Her lip curled. Her lawyer handed her a pen. She signed. Hard. Like the paper had insulted her mother. Settlement signed, the judge said. Petitioner forfeits all financial claims against the respondent. Case closed. The gavel hit. Sharp, clean. I stood up and walked out first. I was halfway down the hallway when I heard her heels behind me. You think you won? She hissed. You think this is over? I didn't even slow down. You're a cold bastard, you know that? After everything I gave up for you. I opened the exit door and stepped outside. She kept going. No one's gonna love you. You'll die alone in that ugly-ass house, talking to your walker. I pushed through the second door. Sunshine hit my face. You piece of shit, she screamed. I kept walking. Didn't flinch. Didn't look back. To me, she wasn't even there anymore. I didn't even make it to the parking lot before Rachel popped into my head. Again. It had been weeks, but her voice still cut through the noise. Calm. Sharp. The only person who didn't flinch when I was half dead and fully broken. By the time I got to my truck, I'd already decided. There was a gas station down the block from the courthouse. I pulled in, still on fumes from the court mess. Grabbed a $5 bouquet sitting in a rusty metal bucket next to the ice chest. The petals looked like they'd been through something. So had I? Fair match. The rehab center smelled the same, like bleach and instant coffee. I walked in, clutching that sad bouquet, hoping I didn't look as awkward as I felt. The nurse at the front desk looked up from her crossword. Is Rachel around? I asked, rubbing the back of my neck. She smiled. She's in post-op. Had a long surgery this morning. She'll be out soon. You can wait there. She pointed to a plastic chair in the corner. So I sat. For 45 minutes. I had no speech planned. No big line. I just kept going over her jokes, her smirks, the way she handed me cookies without asking questions. The hallway door finally swung open. Rachel came out in navy scrubs, hair pulled back, face tired but still somehow lit up. She saw me instantly. Hey, she said, wiping her hands on a paper towel. You lost again or just stalking the Jell-O fridge? I stood up, held out the flowers. They're ugly, but I figured you'd get the joke. She took them, looked down, smirked. Gas station. Best $5 I've spent in a while. Her smile dropped just a little. like she realized I wasn't here to joke. I don't really know how to talk to people anymore, I said. But I'd like to take you out. She blinked. No hesitation. No dramatic pause. Okay, she said. Pick a night. Just like that. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. You like burgers? Obviously. You hate small talk? Depends on the size. I grinned for the first time in what felt like years. She held the flowers close like they were made of gold. Don't worry, she said. You're not the only one learning how to breathe again. 2 nights later, we met at a food truck park near the river. I got there early, found the one that smelled like grilled onions and actual meat, not frozen patties. She showed up in jeans, ponytail, no effort made, and somehow looked better than anyone who ever tried too hard. We ordered double cheeseburgers and Cokes, no salad in sight, and walked the trail by the water. Rachel talked about the surgery she assisted on. Some guy who had a screwdriver jammed halfway into his thigh. Did he cry? I asked, biting into my burger. He passed out before he even hit the ER doors. I would have too. I laughed with my mouth full. When she asked what I'd been up to, I told her straight. Cancelled every joint account Carly ever touched. Took hours. One bank tried to verify her number instead of mine. I lost it. She shook her head. That woman is a virus. We found a bench overlooking the river. She stretched her legs out, leaned back. I sat there just breathing in the air. No bleach. No lies. She looked at me sideways. You look lighter. I nodded. Feels like I left a whole other life behind in that bed. She smiled, soft but solid. We traded stories about hospital food, how the green beans always squeaked when you bit them, how one nurse sang to 4 bags like they were plants. Remember that old guy down the hall from you? She said. The one who kept stealing pudding cups? I laughed again. Said he was building a stockpile for winter. We sat in silence after that. But it wasn't awkward. For the first time in months, I wasn't angry. I wasn't tired. I didn't know where this was going. Didn't need to. I was just glad I came back.